The biggest story on this side of the ocean, that, of course, the continuing coverage of Mauricio Pochettino taking over the U.S. men's national team. Earlier today, he was introduced officially at a press conference in New York City. The Argentine, who, of course, last managed at Chelsea, before that PSG, Spurs, Southampton, and Espanyol, answered questions from the media in both English and in Spanish. Here's a cut of some of his more interesting responses.
We need to really believe in big things. We need to believe that we can win, that we can win not only a game, we can win the World Cup. Because if not, it's going to be so difficult, the journey. And we want players that arrive in the day one in the training camp and thinking big. And that is the only way to create, this philosophy or this idea altogether to perform and to really, to put your talent on the service of the team. That is going to be our massive challenge. And then, of course, every time that we will have the possibility to be with them, we are going to be, very clinical and try to translate all the information. It's a very good generation of player. I think it's only be together, because in football it's a collective sport. All we understand that, but on the end we need to show that we play like a collective on the pitch, and of course we need to work in that. The culture is USA culture, is there. In all the sport, USA have great athletes. In all the sport, is a winning culture, winning mentality. I think only in soccer that we need to inspire by many sports that we have here. But I think the most important is to create something special, to feel something when you arrive to the national team. It's not because the player come and, because they call me and we are going to play. No, we are going to compete. And compete is completely different than to play.
We need to believe we can win the World Cup. That's certainly the quote that is making the rounds, as we welcome in Aage, Fjortoft, as well as Stewart, Robson. I want to get your thoughts, gentlemen, on the quote that's going viral. But let's hear from these guys first, because we haven't really heard from them too much on the Pochettino hire in general. Jan, what do you think of the hire, and how much better do you think this makes the U.S. men's national team?
Well, first of all, it needs to be said, it's not like he's going on the stage after the Beatles, is it? So, I mean, it's everything to win for him. That is point number one. Point number two is that I've been working with Pochettino for many years. Very likable, a guy that showed at Tottenham he can build a team, he can build an identity and so on. I was thinking when I saw the interview, yes, he's speaking to his choir, he's saying this about the World Cup. I think he has to say those kind of things. But I think that when you're a national coach, it's all about being an ambassador for your federation, but for the country, for the soccer, as he has learned straight away to say when it comes to the USA. So I think this is a good signing. I think after a time where there have been some different things going around, I think this is a good signing for them, and good for them that he's there, that he can start, because now you have to start working very hard. And I would just want to say that sometimes all national coaches say that we don't have time, we don't have the players in training, it's hard to get the philosophy in. But always look to Austria, what Ralf Rangnick managed to do with that Austrian team, taking them from being an average team to being one of the most exciting teams at the Euros this summer. So there is a chance.
Robbo, what do you make of the hire, and are there any shortcomings that maybe U.S. fans should be worried about when it comes to Pochettino as a manager?
Well, he hasn't been quite as good in the last couple of jobs as I thought he was in the first couple of jobs, or the job he did at Southampton, the job he did at Spurs. So he's got to get back to that sort of coaching philosophy. When he came into Southampton, nobody really heard of him. Southampton had sacked their manager. He came in from Espanyol, and he transformed the team very quickly. They played high-intensity football, and they were an average team. They weren't a particularly good side, didn't have great players. And that has to be said about the United States. They're not going to be the best players in the world. They're going to be an average national team. And he's got to take them to the next level by getting the work rate right, the philosophy right, the tactics absolutely right. And he's right what he said. When the players turn up every time they come up to a national camp, they've got to be at their very best. They've got to show belief. and they've got to do everything that Pochettino wants from them. It's going to be tough for him, but I think he's a decent manager.
What about what he said, Shaka? We need to believe we can win the World Cup. Right thing to say, wrong thing to say? Where you fall on it?
Only thing he can say. I don't think Pochettino had any choice but to say exactly that. And to his point, and talking about believing we can win matches, and if you take one match at a time and you go into each of those believing you can win, you go into a tournament, that kind of lends itself to, well, we'll go all the way. Listen, I smiling in seeing that I have some experience in this. Trinidad and Tobago qualified for our only ever World Cup in 2006. The evening of the draw, I did an interview and said, listen, Trinidad and Tobago are not going to win the World Cup, but we're going to surprise somebody. I guarantee it. The amount of abuse I got from fans back in Trinidad and Tobago saying, what kind of a defeatist attitude is that? How could you go into the World Cup not thinking you're going to win it? This is Trinidad and Tobago. So if that is how fans of, at the time, the smallest ever nation to qualify for a World Cup, take a professional perspective with the US as hosts, given the task, given everything that is kind of put at Pochettino's doorstep, he has absolutely no choice but to say exactly that and keep saying it up until the World Cup starts.
Is he not setting the bar too high here, Stevie?
I think it depends on the individual that takes in the information, whether he's setting the bar too high. I mean, the truth is, does anybody realistically think that the United States are going to win the World Cup in 2 years' time? I don't think so, but initially I wasn't with Shaka. Initially I'm thinking, why are you saying that? But then at the end of the day, the more I thought about it, when you step on a field, regardless of who your opposition is, you've got to believe you can win the game. So I guess at the end of the day, it's not that stupid as it sounds. Because you do have to think you can beat the opposition, regardless of who it is, because of the way you set up, because of your preparation, you know, because of who's standing beside you. You know, who have you got up front who's going to... You've got to believe in everybody around you, and you have to believe in yourselves as a team, that you can step on that field and beat whatever's put in front of you on any given day. So initially I thought it was a bit daft, but actually the more I think about it, why not?
I'll tell you one of the beliefs that certainly the US, or let me say sections of the US fan base has to get away from. And as I saw that graphic, it kind of hit me. This kind of rhetoric that this is the greatest generation of American players ever. I don't get that. I just can't lend myself to, well, this is the greatest generation of US players that we've seen. Far too many very talented American players. And we could talk about Claudio Reyna and reel them off, if you like. That these, certainly as a team, do not hold a candle to.
Jan, you know a little bit about this with Norway, right? You got all the talent in the world. It doesn't always lead to results.
Well done, Seb, to get me in on that one, because I think Shaka spoke to me, because we have maybe the best player in the world at the moment, Erling Haaland. We have the captain of Arsenal, Martin Ødegaard. We got Oscar Bob at Manchester City. We got Nusa, who's doing so good at RB Leipzig. We get so and so and so on, and we couldn't qualify. Every nation in Europe qualified for this Euro, and we couldn't. And I'm with Shaka, because you can take one individual, you can see behind every name which club is there, but it doesn't matter. You have to perform when you're together. And I think with Pochettino's biggest challenge, and he knows that, that's why you got him. That's what you get him in. You need an ambassador to get them to play for their country, play as a team. And he can do that because, as I was saying, and I will repeat myself because I'm one of the biggest fans of the national coach of Austria, Ralf Rangnick, he showed that that's possible. Can Pochettino do that for USA? Of course he can. He got the potential and the knowledge to do that because he's built something before. But as Stu is saying, he needs to revenge as well, because the couple of last seasons was a bit lost for him.
Robbo, the other day on the show, maybe it was extra time, we were talking about the expectations, right, what they should be with him, and we kind of settled on quarterfinal. Robbo, you just saw that last US 11. You know this US talent pool pretty well. Is quarterfinals at a home World Cup under Mauricio Pochettino something realistic, something that the U.S. can strive for? Is that the type of impact you think he could have on this program?
He could do. You know, I think quarterfinal will be probably a little bit too excessive for the United States, but it is on home soil. But they're not going to do it through expansive football. They're not going to do it through the talent that you've just been talking about. They're going to do it through Pochettino getting his tactics absolutely right, the players working really, really hard, closing the ball down, like Rangnick's Austria did in the European Championships, where they play at high-intensity football. They've got great team spirit, and they believe they're going to do things. On talent, they're not going to get anywhere near the quarterfinals. You know, and if Pochettino thinks they're going to be a great passing team and play through midfield, I think he's going to come in for a shock. They've got to be fairly one-dimensional, but do the thing that they do really, really well. And that's what he did at Southampton.
Stevie, it's a big upgrade in the managerial position. I don't think if we compare Berhalter's resume and Pochettino's resume, there's any discussion. Yeah. Should we expect that to mean a big uptick in the level of play on the field?
I certainly think there has to.
Because we're talking about quarterfinals off a team that just missed getting out of the group in a World Cup.
I'm a little bit with Robo. I think if you did that, and it is possible. I mean, you just got to look at South Korea not that long ago, who were nowhere. They get the World Cup at home, and then they push on, and now they've disappeared pretty much again. So it's possible, but it's only possible because the coach can put them together in a manner where they are solid, tight, and can take advantage of when they have the ball.
Do you trust him to be that guy?
Well, yeah.
Based on what you've seen from him in the past?
100% based on what he's done in the past. Okay. 100%. Particularly, you know, starting at Espanyol and then Southampton. But then to take Spurs, who, yes, they had some really good players, but to take them to a Champions League final, I mean, he built that. He built that and he brought those players together. And so, yes, he can put the pieces of the puzzles together in a manner where every single one of those players that we saw on that last 11 take a step forward and they play at their maximum. And he puts them in the right position. Because that's all of these things are just as important as anything else. You've got to put a certain bit of talent in the right spot to maximise him and to maximise the team. And because of the experience that Pochettino has, right now, absolutely, I think he can do that.